Hi, and welcome to this series where I'll be going through the ITIL 4 practices individually, and I'll be giving you the main headline points you need to be aware of in order to help support your base knowledge around ITIL 4. I'll also be discussing some of my real world application of this practice in organisations. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click the bell for those updates. Today I'm going to be talking about capacity and performance management from the service management practice. There's 17 of those practices and I'm going to be covering each one of those off in other videos. Quick reminder, what's a practice? Practice is a set of organisational resources designed for performing work or for accomplishing an objective. So what's the purpose of capacity and performance management? Well, it's about ensuring services achieve the agreed and the expected performance. Of course, satisfying the current and the future. I'll talk more about future as we go through this video, but the future demand in a cost-effective way. A couple of definitions. So we've got two bits in this practice. We've got the capacity bit and we've got the performance bit. So performance is about measuring what is achieved, what is delivered, and that can either be by a system, it can be by a person, a team, a practice, or of course a service. The capacity planning definition from an ITIL 4 perspective is about creating a plan that manages those resources in order to make sure that the demand for those services is met. In simple terms, for me personally, I like to think capacity and performance management as, quite simply, it's the various actions that need to be completed within a period of time, most importantly, successfully and based on the required demand. So capacity and performance analysis and the planning element includes a bunch of activities. So what are those activities? Well, first off, we've got researching, monitoring the current service performance. So I like to think of that as the as-is position, assessing where are we now, the as-is, how are things looking today. So the other bit that I'll just reference here is the ITIL 4 guiding principles, which talks about start where you are, investigate and observe the current state, but also the continual improvement bit in terms of where are we now. The other activity in capacity and performance management talks about modelling, talks about requirement analysis and forecasting and resource planning. And then finally, an improvement element as a performance improvement planning. Just a slight nod to cloud generally. Clearly, the capacity and performance management, there's an element of the where are we now, but also what happens in the future. Is there going to be an increase in demand or a decrease in demand? And cloud computing, a characteristic of cloud by its nature is elasticity, so they can flex up and they can flex down. Clearly a significant benefit over non-cloud systems. So what's the scope in capacity and performance management? Well, if we think about the resources, we think about assets, we think about your infrastructure. So by that you have a network, you may have a cloud service, you may have servers in there, you may have hardware, there's your applications, there's also third-party services. That links really nicely into the supplier management piece from the general management practice. And then people as well. So just a real world tip here in terms of capacity and performance. Do consider periods of peak activity within your business. Within your organisation, there may be a renewal period, or there may be a new product launch or a sales push or an advertising campaign. Perhaps there's a TV advert going out, or there's some kind of marketing, sales and marketing push. Think about capacity and performance as in, can they flex those items in terms of resources, infrastructure, application, third-party services, people? Is there flex built in there? because the last thing you want is a big TV campaign to be launched or a big marketing push of some kind, and then capacity and performance goes through the roof and you can't meet that demand. So think about resources. Can they scale up? Can people scale up or scale down? I know a number of outsourcing contracts I've dealt with. That is a significant pro in terms of resources can be flexed up and they can be flexed down pretty much instantly. Also think about the infrastructure. So the storage, the compute, the processing power, the network capacity. Is that going to be able to adapt to this sudden huge increase in demand? I mentioned earlier about that's a really good pro of cloud services, where they're able to flex storage, they're able to flex compute, processing power, capacity very quickly, probably much quicker than you can if you try to do it yourself. So remember, service performance depends on service capacity, i.e. it's the throughput of a CI or your service. Okay, so let's just cover off the service value chain as a reminder. That's the center of the service value system, and the way I like to remember the various activities of the service value chain is PIDOD. So you've got plan, you've got improve, engage, design and transition, obtain and build, deliver and support, all delivering products and services which will deliver value. So from the capacity and performance management perspective, like a lot of practices that we've talked about earlier in the general management practice and the service management practice and the technical management practice, this practice is involved in all of those activities. However, there's a particular nod to the improve element. So final two thoughts on capacity and performance management for you to ponder on, for you to think through. Capacity management's an ongoing process. It's not a one-off hit. It's something that requires ongoing reporting. There needs to be a management of the capacity and the performance. There needs to be a monitoring element, modeling, implementing, designing and planning. It's a circular activity that goes on, and it's not just something you do once and say, yeah, we've done capacity and performance management. It doesn't work like that. And then the other thing is around being proactive. Don't just be reactive when it comes to capacity and performance management. So what I mean by that is look at historic data. So for example, quite a common question is, the number for this month, maybe in a monthly service review, might be, the value is 10 for the sake of argument. What does that mean in context? What was it last year at this time of year? And then the linking in with the business. Make sure you know things like periods of peak activity. So is there a new sales drive perhaps about to launch? Are you approaching year end? Are your finance team going to be doing a lot of reporting, a lot of capacity, a lot of performance issues that may well need to be considered? So that's it, really. Just kind of a very brief overview of capacity and performance management from an ITIL 4 perspective. Please subscribe and hit the bell.